Welcome to Wealth Mavericks, the only podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And today, we're going to talk about what makes us at Terra Firma different.
So you may run a practice. No. Medicine you may be practicing, but the actual structure is a business. And so it needs to be ran as a business so you can practice medicine. There is a distinction in the words being used.
Part of what leads to burnout for doctors, because they've made bad business decisions that have compounded over years and just kind of piled up. And it's like, how do I get through this? And by the way, that includes like tax decisions where they've gotten bad advice or they just don't think things apply to them. And so they just kind of accept, well, I just have to pay a lot of taxes.
I talk to so many doctors every week, and it's naturally the most common question I get. Oftentimes, doctors come across us on social media, LinkedIn or Facebook, and they're very interested in what we have to say, but there's a healthy dose of skepticism. They have worked with financial planners and they have a CPA, but we are asset coaches and tax strategists, and they really want to know, well, what exactly makes you different? So today, we're going to dive deeper into that. Bob, you are an asset coach and tax strategist. Tell us what that means and what got you into it.
Yeah, so it was a long history of coming up with that title. As I was going through my educational process of learning strategies, trying to be very productive and being a solution provider to doctors and to clients. And that skepticism you brought up is something that we see a lot of times. And I think the reality of that is because you feel like, as a doctor, you feel like as a consumer, because the three of us are consumers as well, that there should be something different we're hearing. There should be a different result than what we're seeing, but we're not. And so when you hear somebody say what they're going to do for you, but you've heard that story before, what are you going to do? You're going to be skeptic. It's just normal. It's human nature, right? It's based on an experience. And so as I was going through this process for myself, I would talk to a lot of people and I would tell them what I do, and they go, "Oh, you're a financial advisor." Well, no. Yeah, I have my securities license. We have our own registered investment advisory firm. We have our own insurance agency. We have our own tax practice. Oh, so you're a tax guy? Yeah, no. Yeah, right. So I hired a coach, a sales coach, to just spend time with me to learn about what I do, how I do what I do, and we literally would spend an hour sessions of just trying to define what we do.
Wow.
And the last session, he probably didn't know it was his last session. But at the time, now it's the last session, we were sitting there, I'm like, holy cow. My process is I go through people's assets, I review their assets, we organize their assets, I coach them on their assets, and then we develop tax strategies based on those assets they have. So that's where the evolution or the creation of asset coach and tax strategist came from. It's our actual process. It is what we do. So the other thing was, how do you communicate to people? How do they search you? Financial advisor? Well, great. You're going to be, number 5 millionth search on Google, right? A tax guy? Oh, yeah, you're going to be number 8 million on that search. You go search us right now, Asset Coach Tax Strategist. Where do we show up? Right up top. We're the only ones that are acknowledging what we do in the title, what we do. Being a certified financial planner, CFP, being a certified public accountant, CPA, these are designations that organizations have structured and set up that actually allow their members to do things, but also disallow things that they're allowed to do. And I learned this in my securities license, in my journey, that there are things that you as a client deserve. from your professional. And if I'm holding a particular designation doesn't allow me to do that, whose interests am I looking after? Not yours. And so we have CPAs, we have tax attorneys, we have financial advisors, we have insurance professionals, we have all these various people that come to us to help their clients in what we do. So do I really need letters at the end of my name if I have all that expertise and knowledge to be able to help all those people with the letters at the end of their name?
Right. Ooh, that's good. So nearly everyone who I talk to, when we ask them, have you ever implemented a strategic tax plan before? The answer is no. We've had multiple say, I've never even heard the term strategic tax plan. So why do you think so many of these doctors have gone years, decades, paying their taxes each year, but they've never had an actual tax plan that plans out ahead for them? Like, what is the problem here?
Well, I think it's just the model. From my perspective, and most tax professionals have gone into the business of tax to prepare taxes, and most that are common to physicians is a CPA, and their title CPA is a certified public accountant. They're an accountant. Now, some of them focus on taxes, just like some of them focus as a CFO for a company or a controller or some other type of position in a company with that training behind them, so to speak. But just like in the medical field, where they're all doctors, you're all doctors, but what's your specialty? Where do you drive into your specialty? So they're all CPAs, but what's their specialty, right? You can look at attorneys, the same thing. Oh, they're all attorneys. They all pass the bar exam. But what do they practice? What kind of law, right? And that's what we're focused on is we're focused on assets, understanding your business, your practice, which is the most important or most valuable asset you have. But it's also should be the least valuable with the right plan in building up other assets. So real estate, retirement plans, right? We can go on the list of all these different assets. And that's the difference. I'm a business owner. Everything that we present to our clients, we are doing ourselves. We are eating our own cooking. So it's not do this because I said, do this because we're doing this too.
Yeah.
Right? We're actually leading by doing. And that's where Joe and I have combined forces, so to speak, because as business owners, we are different. We're unique. Yeah. And the IRS and the government acknowledges that, and that's why the tax code is written for business owners. So you may run a practice. No. Medicine you may be practicing, but the actual structure is a business. And so it needs to be ran as a business so you can practice medicine. There is a distinction in the words being used.
Yep.
And that's very important.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bob. I feel like you did a really good job clarifying what makes you different on the tax side. We also have Joe Ariotto, who is the other partner in Terra Firma. And Terra Firma does so much more for our members than just helping them save a lot in taxes. So, Joe, I'd like to hear from you. What makes you different? What helps you make Terra Firma so unique?
I think like before diving into that question, it's more like what do I do? And I think that helps to answer the question. I think part of coaching and helping people in that capacity with their mindset and who they are becoming in the process, that's really what we do. We help people see perhaps a vision that they've never had for their company before. And so, a lot of the doctors that we work with, the rates of burnout in the field of medicine are just skyrocketing. It's a terrible thing that's happening. And so I think sometimes they just can't see beyond where they're at right now. If you take your hand and put it right in front of your face, it looks really big if it's right here. If you step back, you can see more around it. And I think that's sometimes what we do as coaches at Terra Firma is we just help people step back for a moment and take a look at things and say, okay, can we create a more compelling vision of the future for you? and help draw them into that. So I got started in the coaching industry when I was pretty young. I was 26 years old. I was coming off of a successful real estate career and got into real estate coaching. And at that time, it was like the beginning of this whole coaching phenomenon. Now it feels like everybody's a coach. You've got coaches who are coaching coaches on how to get coaches, to coach in like that cycle. Like if anyone who knows that. And I always tell people there's a difference between having 20 years of experience and having 1 year of experience 20 times. And what I see in the coaching field is you see a lot of people who've had 5 years or 10 years. It's really they've had 1 year of experience 10 times. And so I think that when you ask the question, like what makes me different or stand out in the industry, I've really been focused on how do I get to the next level of coaching. I've had a great opportunity to have some unbelievable mentors who've poured into me. I've got to sit at their feet and watch from their expertise, from sectors like real estate and financial advising, to just mindset and NLP and all those sorts of things that really matter. And then more than anything, just the execution. I've built a couple of businesses, exited a couple of businesses. So I know the business owner mindset, and a lot of the doctors that we work with or will work with, that's really what they're going to need. Like they're going to need to reframe how they're viewing what they're doing. Bob just talked about that. Yes, you're a doctor. Yes, you have a practice in medicine, but you are a business owner. And you need to make business owner decisions. I can't tell you how many doctors I talk to. They're like, I don't know how I'm still in business. I mean, they're violating like business 101 principles every single day of their life. And to me, that's a travesty because they don't teach this in medical school. Medical school business training, non-existent.
No,
that they are doing a disservice, and I think that's part of what leads to burnout for doctors because they've made bad business decisions that have compounded over years and just kind of piled up. And it's like, how do I get through this? And by the way, that includes like tax decisions where they've gotten bad advice or they just don't think things apply to them. And so they just kind of accept, well, I just have to pay a lot of taxes. And that's an example of one decision that a business owner wouldn't necessarily make. They're looking for how do I maximize this? So all in all, I think the way that I'd answer specifically your question, Aaron, what makes me different is I've really been focused on expanding what I'm working with people on and have just a lot of experience. I mean, I've had well over 2,000 individuals that I've worked with in my career, both from a goal setting and perspective shifting to actual clients that I've worked with for well over a decade. And so it's just, and I think a lot of people enjoy the coaching sector. What they don't enjoy is they're like not good at procuring new clients. And so they end up kind of just eking out earning over their career. I've really been blessed to have like a lot of training in sales and how to work with people and do business development. And so, understanding those principles have just allowed for a very lucrative career that I get to enjoy what I do.
Yeah. And you're so good at it, Joe. I have been able to be coached by you over the last few years, and it has been seriously life-changing. So how do you...
Okay, so hold on, before we move on then, so you've worked with a lot of different people in the coaching industry. What would you say makes, the experience that you've had with me coaching different?
Yeah, and why are you here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think some of it comes down to just the person who you are. And I've said that to a few people on meetings over the last week or two. Like sometimes there's, one guy said to me, well, there's a lot of people out there like you, or I come across a lot of so-called tax experts on social media. And oftentimes they're like a one-man show and they're, telling you why, but you can just kind of feel it in your gut that like, oh, this person is kind of, or, we're not going to resonate with everyone. I have been telling people about Bob and Joe and Jason and like our team at Terra Firma. In my 20 plus years, I have never worked with such a group of genuine humans who truly just show up every day as their best selves and want to serve. It's so refreshing.
Thank
and
you.
Joe, when I met you 3 years ago, it was immediate. Like we had the same coffee mug. It was like, God, we're going to do big things together. And you have just you just pour into me every time we meet, and you've helped bring out my potential, I think. And just, it's this beautiful blend of like skills, but also me as a human and who I want to be in this life, and just pulling that out of me. And I see you do that for our members too. You know, there's been tears on calls. It's like, where did that come from? It's just, it's who you are and what you bring.
Well, I think that, so that is a really major factor. So many people are focused on is it your left brain, kind of logical brain, and everything makes sense. Like, I understand that. But human beings are human beings, not human doings. Mm-hmm. Human doings are all about logic. Human beings are about emotion. What I understand about humans is they make decisions emotionally and justify them logically. And I would encourage any doctor who's listening to this, think about your patients. Think about when you give them a prescription, or you give them a diagnosis, or you give them recommendations, you are probably coming exclusively from your left brain logical point of view. Think about patients who've not taken your advice. They probably got stuck on the emotion. Why would someone not schedule that hip replacement surgery? Why, it all the sense in the world to do this, yet they refuse to do it. There's some emotional block. And so that's what I know and what I bring to the table. I wouldn't say that I purely measure success in coaching by the number of times someone cries with me. I will tell you that
there is a scorecard.
Yeah, I mean, there is a scorecard. There is a KPI that and honestly, I think the reason why is, until a coach has truly tapped into that emotion with you, number one, they haven't really gained jurisdiction to speak into your world, and you probably haven't yielded that over to them. And two, they may just not care. And that's okay. Like, their practice can run as a coach, and they can just say, hey, we just live in the world of logic. It would make you better and make more money and all that kind of stuff. I think the holistic nature of the way that I view a human being is an important distinction in the way that I coach. I see people holistically: spiritual, family, business, financial, fitness. I know we've talked about that on this channel before, but that element is a significant contributor to the way just that I approach coaching. So hopefully that's helpful.
That's great. And so,
and sorry, I'd like to add to that. That is the reason the evolution of Terra Firma went from just a asset coach, tax strategist, from a logic perspective, right? I'm going to show physicians, I'm going to show clients logically how this works, how the strategies work, how to implement these strategies that will do for you or do with you. But there's a between the ears situation going on, and I'm not a personality that knows that aspect. I know it exists. I know what I'm trying to do for myself, but that's why Joe is here, is because now we can blend these two objects, so to speak, or these two parts of the brain into a full functioning brain of action, of doing, of being, so that when somebody's sitting there going, oh, I know this is something that exists, you're absolutely right, and this is how we're going to do it, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that separates us from everybody else, is that we're not looking for a year transaction. We're not handing you a tax plan. We want to implement it. We want to control it. We want to go on this journey with you, hand in hand, arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, whatever it makes you feel comfortable. Maybe it's a foot apart or not. Eventually it will be arm in arm, right? Because we're building relationships because we care. Just plain and simple. We care. Probably too much, but we care.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I would encourage doctors who are listening to this, your world, I understand the world you live in. You're moving from patient to patient pretty rapidly, unless you've transitioned your practice to function differently. But there's no room, there's no margin, there's no room for this. And emotion takes time. Emotion is not easy, and this is the complicated stuff. And so I would encourage you as a doctor, if you're a surgeon, if you're a cardiologist, if you're an anesthesiologist, well, they're going to be asleep, so it wasn't. But, in your practice, find those spaces. Where can I connect with this human? And I'm not saying just to improve your bedside manner. I mean, improve who you are as a human being doing the work that you do. I will tell you, when I really started to tap into this, it changed who I was. It changed how I approached everything. When you begin to look at that. So, that could even be part of the coaching if you are engaged as a member with us is, how do I bring emotion into my practice, even if I might even be afraid of it? So how do I bring that in to enhance the experience that my patients experience with me?
And this is why you're a member. You're not a customer. You're not a client. You're not a prospect. You're a prospective member, but you're a member. You're part of us. We're in cahoots together. There is no separation, and just how we are. And if that doesn't fit your way of thinking and your way of business, that's awesome. There's a lot of people that you've already, most of these doctors have said, I've talked to a lot of people. Well, stop talking and engage one of those people that fits your personality. We're not going to force ourselves on you, but we will embrace you, and you will be a member, and we will be doing this together, plain and simple. And we're all business owners. We've all owned businesses. All of our coaches have owned businesses. So it's not like we're talking in theory. We're talking in practicality and experience. Man, why wouldn't you want that as your team leading you forward into what you're trying to do for your personal life, your family, your legacy, your practice, or whatever you want to call it, your goals are, which we'll hash out in our discovery process. But why wouldn't you want a team that cares?
Right.
I mean, what's the point then?
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we can go further in future episodes about what that coaching looks like, why we feel so strongly about it, because often, people will come and be like, well, I just want tax savings. But our name, Terra Firma, it means firm foundation. And when you say there's no separation between you as a doctor and you as a person who's building wealth and you as a human. And so, we say we don't just want to put a Band-Aid on it. We want to get to the root cause of why are you making these decisions? Why do you want to grow this wealth? And I think our approach, that holistic approach to blending it all so beautifully, is how we add so much value to our members. So thank you both for sharing. We look forward to talking to you in the next episode. And in the meantime, go be a wealth maverick. Have a good day.